Hey guys, how you doing? Apparently, the allure of free burgers still works. You guys are all out in mass on a Saturday like you don't have anything else to be doing, and it's rainy and it's cold. I love it. I'm glad you're here. Well, hey, I wanted to welcome you, and I also wanted to pray, and then I want to invite our principal, Frida Chadwick, up here to talk to us. And we got a lot we're going to do really quick, not a rush, but like really quick because we want to get you information, and then the burger is up there too. So let's pray. So, Lord, we thank you for days like this when just friends and classmates and stuff can gather together and just grow in relationship and grow in wisdom and knowledge. And so we just ask that you would rest your favor and your blessing, and you would speak to our hearts and our minds, because ultimately we're all interested in where our kids are going to be this year and 10 years from now and 30 years from now. And so we just need your presence. And with that, we know there will be peace, and we know that there's favor and there's guidance and there's wisdom and all that. And so, Lord, I guess what we're saying is you're welcome here. So bless us with your presence today, and we thank you for being the type of God that does just that. And so, Lord, we just ask that you would lead this entire evening, and may we grow closer together. In Jesus' name we pray it. Amen. Miss Frida Chadwick.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh. Thank you. I want to welcome you again. I know Josh did, but I want to welcome you, and I want all of us to give a round of applause to all the church staff who has spent a lot of time putting this together. And there are over 60 volunteers today who are doing things so that we can be in here and be with you all. And all the school staff is in here with you all. So let's thank them. I'm just here to answer a few of the questions that we've heard a lot over the last few months through you talking to us and through email. The first big one that we've had is about teacher retention. So at the end of February 22nd, letters of intent were due back, and I'm happy to tell you that about 90% of the teaching staff is returning. A few of those, yes. In fact, that may be a bigger percentage than a normal school year. And a few that are not returning are for reasons like 2 are going back to grad school. 1 is staying home to babysit with a new grandbaby, and those kind of reasons. Also, many of you have already re-enrolled, and we are so thankful for that, so you know that there is no change in tuition for this year. We've also had questions about major curriculum changes. There are no major curriculum changes planned for this year, just our normal tweaking that we do every year. And Becca always has an update on something, so that will be new when we get that information. So there's the answer to that question. One thing I want to officially announce that has not been publicized yet, but in the fall we did announce that in our senior class, we had 6 students who were recognized on a national level through the PSAT test that they take their junior year. So those 6 students that were recognized back last fall were Caleb Phelps, Rachel Gruenbaum, Taylin Day, and Anson Sujo were National Merit Commended Scholars. Matt Cleveland was a semifinalist. So what that means, when they are juniors, they take the PSAT test along with about, give or take a few, 1.6 million juniors in the United States. The 4 that are commended were in the top 50,000. Matt Cleveland was in the top 16,000 out of all of those. Just the other day, we received word that Mac made it to the finalist level. Yes. So now, out of those that reach the finalist level, they will choose 7,500 for National Merit Scholarships. So pray for Mac that he's part of that 7,500. In addition, we also had Caleb Shetler, who out of 50,000 Hispanic scholars was recognized as a National Hispanic Scholar. So we are very proud of them. I don't know if any of them are in the audience today. They're all seniors. But I do want to point out to you that that is 6 out of 23. So do the math.
Bethesda is special for a lot of things. I like the fact that it's kind of small. I like knowing all the students, at least at the senior school level. Some of the middle school students I know, but I like that extended family feel that you get when you know everybody and they know you.
Being a part of the BCS community has truly impacted my family's life. We're a part of a family. I feel like BCS community is just one big family. We've had so many relationships that we've developed here at Bethesda with the other BCS families as well as the teachers here at Bethesda. So it's greatly impacted my family, and we love being a part of the BCS community.
Well, I've had several people ask me, I thought, when your children graduated, maybe you wouldn't stay any longer, but this has been such a wonderful place for me to be, to work, that I haven't wanted to leave, especially right now going through my current cancer diagnosis. I'm just, on a daily basis, blessed by someone here, whether it be a meal being brought, a prayer in the hallway, a group of kids coming and saying, can we pray for you, encouragement. It's just been incredible. So it's a great place for me to be and to feel loved and encouraged and uplifted. So I'm going to stay until the Lord tells me that I'm supposed to not stay. So hopefully isn't anytime soon. So.
As a counselor, I feel like there's many days sitting down with families, with students, and I feel really heavy and really burdened, especially in the spiritual aspect, like looking darkness and sin in the face and having to deal with that. And it never fails that a day whenever I just feel really emotionally heavy, I'm exhausted because of it, somebody comes and they reach out to me. They bless me for no reason. I've had students come to my classroom and just say, hey, can I pray for you? Family of students come in and say, hey, can I pray for you? And I've worked at a lot of places and I've had really great positions and worked for great people, but I've never had that before, where everyone understands our task here and what we're facing here. So to have that and be a part of a community like that, it's kind of indescribable.
My very first year, I taught 7th grade, and I was kind of worried about that because 7th graders, most people are afraid of them, and so I went in pretty scared. But then literally on the first day, I realized that is the grade to teach. And all the other grades turned out just fine, and the kids, for 16 years, I've had some of the best kids you can ever imagine teaching. And I'm still friends with scores of them to this day, even though they've graduated. So I have friends going back a long, long way.
We have such a strong community. All the parents know each other, all the kids know each other. When we're walking down the hallway, every person says hi or how are you to our son. Everybody is just so loving, and just for your child to feel genuinely cared about, no greater feeling. I've heard that from so many other parents too. They said, we love that every person in this building knows my daughter or knows my son.
Good afternoon. I'm very happy to share with you some really special highlights about our young ambassadors. The National Geographic Bee winner this year for the second year in a row is 8th grader Eli Haddocks, and he has taken the online qualifying National Geographic Bee test for the state level, and we'll find out soon if he progresses to that level. 27 3rd through 8th graders competed in the area Math Olympics last month, and many of our math ambassadors took top honors. I love math nerds. I love math nerds. I am not one, unfortunately. This year, our 4th and 5th grade robotics teams had a couple of opportunities to compete, but the larger focus is that these 9 and 10-year-olds are learning about a subject way beyond the normal class topics, and here's an example. One team worked with a former NASA physicist to solve problems with exposure to galactic cosmic radiation. I'm not making this up. 4th and 5th graders. Our art students entered some of their work in the Truth, Goodness, and Beauty art contest with several of our elementary ambassadors taking top honors in color drawing and 2D mixed media. Our very own 7th grader, Hepzibah Sujo, after winning our local bee and the area spelling bee, will compete this Thursday at TCU for the Scripps Regional Spelling Bee. And hopefully for the 2nd year in a row, she will win that one and once again head to the National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C. Go Hepsi. Yes. Just yesterday, 39 1st through 6th grade students competed in the area speech meet, and all I can say is wowza. Our 39 students brought home 32 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place honors. It's amazing. They're using their gifts. All of BCS participated in the ACSI Day of Prayer last month, and our youngest prayer warriors took some focused time out of their day and just spent it lifting up and praying for the needs and the concerns of not just the kids in their classroom, but beyond. If you have not visited our library this year, you are missing out. We just finished up Penguin Palooza, where in 2 weeks, our kindergarten through 3rd grade students read 312 books about penguins. Our readers are becoming leaders. Service is a BCS pillar of distinction, and for Love Month last month, our youngest ambassadors, our kindergartners, filled a love box for Jose Baca, our wonderful janitor who takes such good care of us. We love Jose. At Christmas, our 1st and 2nd grade classes collected about 70 pounds of goods for Army Private Ethan McKenzie. The McKenzies are a BCS family, and the young ambassadors wanted to serve Ethan even as he is serving our country in the Middle East. Many years ago, when I was teaching 5th grade here, we took our class to visit a nursing home for Christmas, and our plan was to bring them some simple gifts and recite a passage of scripture and sing some Christmas carols, which we did. And as we were leaving, the activities director walked up to me and put her arm around me and whispered in my ear, "Don't pack us away with the Christmas ornaments." The Holy Spirit used those words and that visit to make the most wonderful connection for our 5th grade ambassadors. For the last 15 years, our 5th graders go every month to visit, hang out with, love on the residents at North Point Nursing Home in Watauga. So once an ambassador, always an ambassador. Thank you.
I was supposed to talk first because no matter what happens, Nancy would always look better, but it didn't matter. Okay, I'm going to talk to you. I'm Kenny Edwards. I'm the Dean of Students at secondary level. So I'm going to talk to you about a few things we're doing at that level. And so first of all, I'm going to talk about our robotics team. Our middle school kids, they were part of 450 robotics teams that went to compete for 60 spots in the regional championship. Our ambassador gold team, which is 7th grade, won the project award to advance to the 2nd qualifier. And in the 2nd qualifier, they took 9th place in the robotic game. Our Ambassador Flame team, which is made up of 7th and 8th graders, took 2nd place in the automatic regional championship. And our Ambassador Lightning team, which is just 6th graders, took 1st place in the automatic regional championship and 3rd place at regionals. So now they're advancing to the Legoland Championship. So they're awesome. Our varsity athletics is doing well also. Our volleyball took TAPS 2A District 2 3rd place, and we're area finalists this year. Our soccer team were area finalists as well. Our state cross country team, the boys took 6th place out of 14 teams. And Mr. Ethan Lawler, who doesn't even run in the hallways, took 4th overall. So good on him. Our girls tied for 5th overall out of 12 teams at the state cross-country meet. And lastly, our varsity basketball team were TAPS 2A District 2 second place, by district champions and area finalists as well. So our athletics teams are doing great. Fine arts, music. I've got some band and choir stars. Anson Sujo is a senior, so we lose him after this year. He made symphonic 4A All-State Band first chair bassoon. He did that all 4 years he was in high school, and so he gets a $2,000 scholarship for doing that as well. So that's pretty awesome. Emmy Lovelady, who is a sophomore, was concert 3A All-State Band, 4th chair euphonium. And then over in choir, Sam Date is a junior this year, and for the 2nd year in a row, he was this is the acronym I got, TPSMEA. I said, what is TPSMEA? It's the Texas Private Schools Music Education Association. He's all-state choir for the last 2 years. So that's our fine arts and music. But in arts, Nancy already talked about the Truth, Beauty, and Goodness competition. We had 60 entries, 20 total awards at the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place level in middle and high school from 11 different students. We had 6 first place, 7 second place, and 7 third place awards. So our art program is pretty awesome too. I'm not involved in any of those. That may be part of the reason why. Service. We do service up at our level as well. We do a lot of service. Mr. Chadwick leads that for us. And we do lots of things, but one of the things we do every single Wednesday and every other Tuesday is go to David E. Smith Elementary School, and we service them. Every Wednesday after school, every other Tuesday during Bible class, we take a Bible class over there, we hang out, and then we come back, and then another Bible class goes. Wednesdays, we just mentor young ladies and young men in appropriate life situations that they're facing as elementary kids. On Tuesdays, we just spread out wherever they need us. They send us to classrooms, they send us to help someone with ABCs, send us to read with somebody, send us outside to play sports with them, all in just the name of mentoring, and our kids love it. Partially because they get to wear jeans on that day, but really because they're feeding into the lives of young kids, just like they were fed into when they were young kids. So that's awesome. And then the last thing is something we're doing that I'm excited about. It's our Naviance course planner. So we've had Naviance for, now this is the 2nd year, but we have a new module called Course Planner that comes online this month in March. We're finally there. It's going to allow our students to plan and forecast their middle school plan for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and their high school graduation plan for all 4 grades there. And it allows us to forecast classroom space requirements that we need for what the kids want to take, and better guide them towards graduation requirements and successful college planning. So that, I don't know, as I said that sounded really boring, but I am so excited about it, and I can't wait to start meeting with the kids to do that planning. So that's coming online this month, so that's pretty awesome. Thank you.
I came here when I first started from being an administrator at another school, far away, and I came with some hurt, and I came with some brokenness, and I could not believe how I was just engulfed in love. I was reassured. I have a heart for students who sometimes struggle with trying to figure out how to learn the material. And so the Lord just puts them into my life, and we're able to work, and we can climb this mountain, and the victory is so sweet and so great. So Bethesda has opened all those doors for me.
I was able to transition like from one day to the next, retiring from one job and starting this job at BCS. So that's clearly a huge thing to be able to do that. And then the blessing comes when I get to go to school with my son. And coincidentally, my wife also works here, and she's worked in several capacities in the front office, at the atrium desk, in the kitchen. And so my whole family was here. My daughter taught here and now works over on the church side. And so this has turned into what was just a 4th grade classroom for my son has turned into a family affair where most of my family works here.
I not only get to interact and impact the students in like the classroom in an academic setting, but I also sponsor numerous clubs and I assistant coach the basketball team. So I get to know the students on a more personal level, and then you can speak truths into their lives that go beyond analyzing a text or writing a good paper, but those like God truths about who they are and their purpose in life. And being able to do that is just really what makes teaching, and especially teaching here, just so amazing and such an awesome experience.
From the moment I came, the parent body, they're so loving and so caring for the teachers. The administration is always very embracing and supportive. My favorite part, of course, is my students. I love building relationships and bonds with them, and many times they go on even after they graduate. And that is the reason I came back to Bethesda, because after working in other schools, I missed that family environment. I missed my students that I had taught, and I missed my friends that I had left here.
You get to know people outside of the classroom, which is great. Coach Owen and I, we share an office, and we're always going back and forth with one another. People on the church side that I've gotten to know, that I went on a mission trip with this past summer to Honduras, and in fact, the Lord told me at that point, this is going to be a year of relationship building, which I feel is really important. My desire also is to build relationships with parents of the kids I teach, of the kids I coach as well, because we all go through stuff, and sometimes we need other people to walk with us.
Community is so important, and being that I am from Minnesota, I don't have a lot of family and friends down here, and so the community here at BCS has really stepped up to be my family. They've filled in the gaps where my own family couldn't be here when I've gone through physical. I've been dealing with some physical things with my eye and in my back, and so they've really stepped up and helped me, taken care of me, helped me take care of myself, but they've really been my family, and that's the one thing that I think I can say about BCS is it's family.
Last year, my husband collapsed in the morning, and we had to call an ambulance, and I wasn't for sure what was going on. The teachers that morning had met and prayed for my husband. I was able to send my children to school that morning, knowing that was the best place for them to be. Their teachers loved on them that day. Mrs. Berman went and got both of my children and called me just so they could hear my voice, to know everything is okay. You can't find that anywhere else.
So my name is Kim Bergstrom. I have the honor of representing the boards to you and really coming with excitement to tell you and remind you about something we've had for several years. It's called Project Earn. It's a way for you to refer another student to come to school here. In the past, it's been for a smaller amount. This year we've increased it to $1,000 for every student you recommend. So it's kind of a win-win. We get another face in here, we get another student here, and you get $1,000 off your tuition. But this year, the boards tried to find some more ideas, come up with other ways. And one of the things we really want is the heart of Bethesda to show through. We want your pastors. We want your pastors' kids here. And so we're offering a program where pastors are receiving a discount now. And so a great way for you would be pick that pastor in your church that has 4 or 5 kids. And if you can get him to bring his kids here, you almost get half off of tuition. So we want to encourage you. We want the family to grow here. We want them to become part of this family here, to be part of Bethesda Christian School. We encourage you, talk to your friends, your family, your neighbors. Let's get kids in here. We've got a wonderful staff. Have you seen with these teachers here? It's phenomenal. Let's continue to grow. With that, I'd like to introduce Pastor Dan Smith.
Well, we picked a great day for a cookout, didn't we? It was this last September that we were interviewing people, interviewing search committees. We were given 3 names by a member of the National Board of ACSI who's become a friend of ours around here. And he said, these are the 3 I would recommend. And we interviewed all 3 of them, and one from Nashville, one from Houston, one from San Diego. The one from Nashville was one we selected, Job Fit Matters, strictly because of the breadth and depth of their resource in this field. They were clearly the ones that we should go with, and we felt like the Lord directed them to us or us to them. Some 80 candidates for head of school looked at us through Job Fit Matters. 80 became 8. Those 8 were measured intensely against the benchmarks, which were created distinctly for us. Job Fit Matters based it on the survey that many of you took and personal interviews by Job Fit Matters with parents, teachers, and administrators. 8 quickly became 5 when put before the search committee. Those 5 then wrote essays on their life's history and professional experience to help us get acquainted with them. Then a psychologist outside of Job Fit Matters, but someone that they work with, analyzed the essays, or what they call their story data, against our benchmarks to see how tightly any of these candidates would fit with our needs. The goal was to get the number of candidates down to 3, the finalists down to 3. However, the search committee chose to interview all of the top 5. Each candidate was given a tour of the Child Development Center by Amy Lowe, the director, and a tour of Bethesda Christian School by Principal Frida Chadwick. Each candidate then spent time with the pastoral team of the church, followed by dinner with the search committee, and then the intense interview session with the search committee on that evening. On the Sunday afternoon preceding the week of interviews of all the candidates, the search committee met for prayer, at which time we considered the possibility that as we entered the week of the interviews, it was entirely possible that we would complete the week and not feel confident that we had met the one person that we felt the Lord had for leadership of our school. We had to openly talk about that. We had to ask ourselves, so what will we do then? Well, as only the Lord could have arranged it, we were quite confident after the very first interview on Monday that the Lord had once again proven himself to be faithful. That was the day we interviewed Jason Myers, an American missionary living and working at a school in Jakarta, Indonesia. His interview was so strong, we literally felt that he had checked every box and offered several bonuses to us on top of that. The sense of excitement in the room was palpable and clear on the faces of every member of the committee. Some of the committee members were ready to cancel the remaining interviews, but wisdom, through the voice of Sean Lawler, reminded us that if we felt this strongly about Jason Myers tonight on that Monday night, and that he is the one the Lord would have for us, then we will feel just as strongly about him at the end of all 5 interviews at the end of the week. And that is exactly what happened. Though each of the remaining 4 candidates were all very strong in their own way. They wouldn't have made it that far through the process if they didn't have something of great strength to offer. They were all strong. The bar had been set so high by Jason Myers that the decision was clear to the committee and unanimous. Jason Myers was then subjected to every kind of background check that is known to man. From personal check to a criminal check, both U.S. and Indonesia, and I'm really happy to report he passed both of those, thank the Lord. We were holding our breath all the way through. We even checked his credit. We checked every possible thing there is to check, and my wife, struck by how detailed the process was as she heard me in conversations with Job Fit Matters about all of these checks that we were going through over and over and over, she came up as I was on the phone and she said, mute the phone. She wanted to tell me, she said, be sure you get a copy of his dental records as well. We might need that. Finally, Mr. Myers, at the end of all that, was subjected to the SEMA, S-I-M-A, SEMA, International Motivated Abilities Pattern. Some of you know about that. For yet an even deeper look at how well his skill set and abilities align with the needs of BCS and BCDC, our daycare. This SEMA map was derived from over 14 hours of interviews with his references. And one final comparison of Mr. Myers to the critical leadership benchmarks which were established by you, the body of Bethesda Christian School and Bethesda Child Development Center. These benchmarks that you helped to create, what they did was they guided the search process, lowered the risk of a poor candidate fit, and provided position clarity. The 4 leading benchmarks which you directed were these. Number 1, you said you were looking for a Christian school champion. Number 2, you indicated that it was important for this leader to be a ministry team builder, a partner with you in the education of your children, and a strong school leader. Number 3, you said this candidate needed to be an educational shepherd. Number 4, finally, you placed value on this candidate being a community builder. That's a bit of what the process has looked like and what we've been doing the last 5 months. I would love to have rushed it further to get it sooner than this date, but to have rushed it would have been to unnecessarily abort the process and not let it have its full measure of expression, which it needed to have. It has been thorough, it has been comprehensive and complete. I would like to now recognize the search committee, and then we will thank them all for their tireless effort in serving us in the location of our new head of school. They're all incredible people. Please stand as I call your name and remain standing. We'll applaud at the end. Marianne White, a seasoned educational professional. Don Morrow, who is not with us, he has now moved to Williamsburg, Virginia, though he faithfully completed this task with us. Don was chairman of the Bethesda Christian School Board, a former educator and administrator. Aaron Reeves, business professional, church board member, and chairman of the personnel committee of the church. Mike Maddox, business professional, grandfather of BCS students, former church board chairman, current church board member, former school board chairman, current church board member. Sean Lawler, BCS parent of 2 wonderful sons, faithful supporter of BCS, strong advocate for robust academics, school board member. Kim Bergstrom, father of a BCS student, current chairman of the church board and interim chairman of the school board. And then some guy named Dan Smith they found out on the streets of Beach Street somewhere. So could you thank these people, please, for their work? Thank you all. I'm sure all of you have read the bio we sent by way of the BCS Communications on Jason Myers, very soon to be Dr. Jason Myers, will be known to us as Dr. J. If not, you can avail yourself of that information on our website, on our Facebook page. There's no need for me to give it to you now. However, we do want you to have an introduction to his family. So if you would please, I direct you to the screens and please watch this video.
Hi, Bethesda. Hi, Bethesda. Hi, everyone at Bethesda. We're so excited to meet you, and we'd like to share a little bit about ourselves with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mackenzie. I was born in Portland, Oregon, and at 15 months, my family and I moved here to Indonesia, and I have lived here ever since.
Hello, my name is Jin, and I am 10 years old. I was born in Indonesia and have lived here all of my life.
My name is Dawn, and yes, if we're sharing our ages, I'm 41. I was born in Fredonia, Kansas, and we moved around to different parts of Kansas, then to Oklahoma, to Arkansas, Missouri, and then to Indonesia.
And I was born in Portland, Oregon, actually at the same hospital as Mackenzie, and I lived in the Pacific Northwest my whole life until going to university in Springfield, Missouri, and from there I moved to Jakarta, and I've been in Jakarta ever since.
Some things I have been involved in for the past few years at SPA are participating in several sports teams like basketball, soccer, and previously in 3rd grade, baseball.
I've been a stay-at-home mom. I've also been a dental assistant for 8 years. I was teaching a Bible study fellowship class, and God really laid on my heart for me to go back to school. So I took on that role of going back to school as a student and studied to get my teaching certificate and became a teacher, and I have now been teaching grade 2 for the past 3 years.
I've been participating in the student council for about 3 years now. I also love sports, so I've been participating in basketball, volleyball, soccer, as well as swimming. I love the theater, so I have been involved in productions, dramas, and making my own monologues as well. I also love singing, so I have been in several competitions, in the chapel band, as well as just singing at several assemblies at my school.
I've been thankful to be in Christian education really since I was in the 4th grade going to a Christian school. It's been amazing to be able to see what God is able to do through not only the school organization itself, but through the kids. And we've been excited to hear the stories and see the things that our own children have been involved in through the school service, mission service learning projects, but the curriculum itself in general.
A few things I like to do are playing and watching sports, especially football. At summer times, going to America, spending time at the lake, and even going to amusement parks.
We love to be outside. You'll find us enjoying being on hikes or just playing out. We love to water ski. At least Jason and I do. The kids like to inner tube. So we love being outside and just enjoying that fellowship, barbecuing, and being together with family and friends.
I also really love baking and watching movies.
She does.
And I also love to travel, getting a sense of different cultures and getting to be with different people.
We've traveled to many different islands and cities across the country over the years of our time here, but we've also had a chance to visit a number of different countries in Southeast Asia to see God's people and who they are and what they're doing in their own cultural context. We really like to travel and see family too, and we've been doing that every summer since we've been here. We're looking forward to being in the United States, where traveling to see family will take a little less time, but now we get a chance to do it here, and we've enjoyed that.
The things I'm most excited about moving to Bethesda are going to a new school, meeting new friends, playing sports, and being closer to God.
I'm excited to meet the Bethesda community. I'll be excited to be involved in the church, being in youth groups, maybe even worship services, and also just getting to deepen my faith.
Yeah, this definitely will be a huge transition for our family, one that we are looking forward to, and one that we know God really did orchestrate every single one of these steps. And we are so excited. We've really just seen a change with all of us, be able to settle and have His full peace and understanding that we are going to be moving to a place that is welcoming and ready for us to just be able to experience something new as a family.
When I was there for the interviews and had a chance to meet so many folks from the Child Development Center and Bethesda Christian School and also Bethesda Community Church, everyone welcomed with such warm and open arms, and I just appreciated the people and the relationships that they had with each other and that have already started and blossomed with us, and I'm looking forward to my family to experience that firsthand when we arrive. So we can't wait for May 27th when we get to arrive in Texas and come to Fort Worth and be at Bethesda, and we look forward to seeing you all at that time. In Jesus' name, amen.
We're excited to see you guys.
What a precious family. Ladies and gentlemen, I can only echo the words of the psalmist who said, "This is the Lord's doing, and it's marvelous in our eyes." He has flown 30 hours to be with us this afternoon. It was going to be by Skype, and at the last minute, we made arrangements for him to come, and he graciously has consented to come. He only arrived at DFW this morning, so he's still on Jakarta time. It would be about 5:42 in the morning to him right now. Bethesda, would you please meet your new head of school, soon to be Dr. Jason Myers.
Thank you very much. That's humbling for sure to just see all of you and hear that. And to be honest, watching the teachers up here, I could hear this kind of emotion in their throat as they were sharing, and I can feel it in my own just how much they love this place. And so that was amazing, and thank you for that introduction.
And it was good to see your family, right?
My son begged me to come today. He really wanted to come, but unfortunately school was calling. One other thing I noticed when a lot of those teachers, Sean, your son, as he noticed his teachers up there, was giving a little shout out as he was going. So the kids love the teachers too. Maybe it's probably more than you do as parents. The kids love them, so that's exciting.
Okay, Dr. J, give us a general introduction about you, getting to know you and your family, and then tell us something about your history, your qualifications, and then something about your sense of God's leading you and your family to Fort Worth.
Sure. Maybe before I do that, just to remind you, the dental records are on the way from Job Fit Matters. There's a freckle behind my knee that they didn't inspect, but I think it's probably okay, and you don't need to worry about that. We, as you've seen in the photos there and the video, have just enjoyed being in a completely different culture for so long now as a family. And so now coming to Bethesda, this will be a third culture experience for our children. And I appreciate, Frida, you giving us a recommendation for a book, because we're going to have to transition to a completely new culture because home for us is Indonesia, and it's a beautiful place made of many different islands, and we've had a chance to travel, as you've seen, to a lot of them and be involved in Christian schooling there. The name of our school there is called Sekolah Pelita Harapan, and you heard my son refer to it as SPH, which is those letters in Indonesian. And SPH, or Sekolah Pelita Harapan in Indonesian, stands for School of Light and Hope. And being a Christian school in the largest Muslim country in the world, that light and hope, the word Pelita actually stands for a lighthouse type of light. And you can imagine in a dark place like that the light of Christ is shining brightly. And my first years there, we would have to run around when school inspectors would come to try to hide the Christian paraphernalia, to now we've got reader boards and things blasting the name of Christ all over the city. So we're just so thankful to see how God's name is being proclaimed amongst the people in Indonesia, amongst Muslim people, but people from all different faiths, and being able to be a part of that. That being said, over the course of the time that I've been there, God just called and he brought me there as the sports program director, and I've got lots of sports in my background, as many of you already know, but he was really moving me towards leadership and administration, and so I started my master's program while I was there, and I was thankful to be doing it online, obviously, through Liberty University, which is a great Christian school providing this opportunity, but I needed the ability to be able to apply what I was doing right away, and I was thankful for that program with Liberty University to just put right into practice everything I was learning. And God just kept moving me on in those areas and started elevating me in different areas of leadership amongst the school, which included curriculum coordination, to assistant principalship roles, to coordinating with our other campuses and working together. Our campus is actually now expanded. We have 2,200 students amongst 5 different campuses around the Jakarta area. And we've just been thankful to see how the Lord has worked in that. And for myself personally, I've been able to help advise in the parent organizations and in our administration organizations as those schools have been developing. It hasn't come without its challenges. As you know, the enemy likes to put his foothold down, and God's just been graciously faithful all along the way to allow these schools of light and hope to continue to pop up around the country. That led me then beyond into my doctorate program, again focusing more on the leadership side, and I'm doing it through the United States Sports Academy, which is obviously a sports management program, but the leadership principles in a sports administration program are directly applicable to everything you're looking to do in educational administration. So I've been thankful for that, to be able to put that again right into practice right away. And so the focus, I'm in my dissertation writing only stage and working extremely hard on it. I'll probably need to put some time into it when I'm back on the airplane. But my focus in that has been active living schools in a multicultural context. And so I'll share a little bit about that with you a bit later. But the other part that I want to share, and Pastor Dan mentioned it as far as the Lord's leading to BCS, and that is 3 years ago, the Lord just laid on our heart, our family, my wife and I, and the kids really, to start praying about the next step for us. And we didn't know what that meant. We were just called to pray. And the word that God gave to us was the word trust. We even went and bought a wooden cutout of the word trust and put it on the piano of our front living room so that we could just be reminded of that over the course of that year. And we would continue to pray about that. But we have, in Indonesia, we have a helper in our house who does a lot of the cooking and cleaning, and she's a huge blessing to our family, by the way. But sometimes she would be cleaning the piano, and then letters would get rearranged, or sometimes the front T would fall down, and so sometimes our trust would turn into rust. And it felt that way sometimes, especially over the course of the year. And we came home at Christmas time of that school year to just be with family and to talk with them about what we're thinking and what our decisions would be, and spent that time together with them. What I didn't know is a few months later, my dad would die suddenly. And that was hard, to have my mom be a widow instantaneously. My dad went in for an ablation procedure, and he actually had a blood clot come loose in his brain, and they couldn't save his life. And so the Lord was reminding us that we were to be trusting him through that. And that year became a series of challenges in that trust to lead us into our next year, which was the word wait. And as we were waiting on God, he was reminding us that he's showing us his people all around us that we are to continue to fall in love with in the Indonesian area. And so we continued to wait. And in September of this year, which, by the way, in Indonesia, they actually ask teachers there to give your intention letters out in November. That's the usual time frame. So you teachers here get a little bit of a break to do it a bit later than we're used to. But September, the Lord laid on our heart that we needed to have our eyes wide open in wonder. And we didn't quite know what that meant, and we started to pray, and then all of a sudden, a friend of ours who had left Indonesia was a president in a school in Minnesota called a Vail Academy. She contacted us and said, there's an opportunity with Job Fit Matters. You should give them a call and send them your resume. And it was a school in Illinois called Rockford Christian School. And we applied for Rockford Christian School and was down to the finalists for them, and they decided to go the other direction. And the people from Job Fit Matters, Ed Poff and Laura Coverstone, contacted me and said, they've decided to go a different direction, but that's not the end of the story. And I thought, what does he mean by that? That's not the end of the story. I just, figured we've applied. It didn't work, so we're over. He said, there is a school in Fort Worth, Texas that we have just interviewed, and it is the perfect fit, we feel like, for you. So we want you to apply, and we're really excited about your application. It's going to be a challenging process. There's going to be a lot of people involved in this, but we really want you to apply. And so that really started our journey of working through that. And I will say that Job Fit Matters lived up to their name. They do care about that, and I would write a testimonial for their organization any day because they put me through the ringer for sure, but they also did a great job of just connecting back and forth with the school and with myself and making me feel comfortable all the way through. And so God has just moved us in those order to bring our steps here to BCS, and we are so thankful that we can be a part of the Bethesda community coming up in May, and thankful that so many of you have come out today to get to know me. It's hard to condense 15 years of life into 150 seconds, but I hope that through that we'll get a chance to get to know each other more amongst this. I would say, while I was sitting there listening to the teachers, I would have just rather, instead of me sitting up here talking, listen to more teachers share with me about BCS. I can't wait to learn more about this community from the eyes of the students to the eyes of the parents to the eyes of the teachers and administrators. So I'm looking forward to that.
I remember, was it like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago you were here, something like that?
Yeah.
And we had no idea how the candidates would take to us, but you said that the minute you walked in the door, I know that you were telling your wife, Dawn, and apparently you were FaceTiming her a lot of stuff, that this felt like home.
That's right, it did. And as a matter of fact, as we were in Indonesia and started the application process for BCS, sometimes in a city of 15 million people like Jakarta, getting to church on a Sunday can be quite a challenge. It's only about 12 miles to our church. That can take anywhere between 30 minutes to 3 hours, depending upon traffic. And we drive on the other side of the road, by the way, and on the other side of the car, so that creates additional confusion for me. But so there are some Sundays where coming to church can be a challenge for if there's a rally or a demonstration or whatever. And so what we started doing is joining the Bethesda Community Church online. And we were so thankful to be able to have that opportunity. And so our kids and my wife and I, we felt like we were already here. And then coming and sitting in the services 3 weeks ago just felt like such a natural fit.
Let's talk about your education philosophy. You mentioned in your video with your family that you've been in Christian education since about the 4th grade. So tell us something about your mission, your vision for Christian education, and your philosophy overall about Christian education.
This is such a big one to spend a few minutes on, so I'll try to keep it short. I'll start by saying this, that the spheres of influence on Christian education in what I've seen, and even in the cultural context of Indonesia, would be obviously the home, and I hope that it sounds like Bethesda's a real second home for your families as I'm listening to teachers share, and we want it to be that way. But so the home, the family life, then the school. obviously. But then that third sphere of influence, the community, and watching those videos and seeing how the borders of Bethesda are far beyond the walls of the classroom is so exciting, because our focus each year is on a certain area of our vision statement in Indonesia, and one of them this year is called Better Together, because we're focusing on holistic education. And that's exactly what holistic education is about, that it's beyond the borders of what you're learning from just in the classroom, and your ability to take it beyond and see what God is doing in the lives of the community or in the families. And so that has implications on homework. It has implications on field trips. It has implications on participation in extracurricular or co-curricular activities. And so it's all one collective piece together, combined in one. And I hope that as I come here and as we are together ministering, that the family, the home, and the school can be strengthened. I hope that we can continue to build those spheres of influence so that our children can be ambassadors, as you call it, which, by the way, I love that it's called ambassadors. Most schools want to take on some fancy bird or animal or whatever, and I'm not really sure how you get away with the mascot piece at the sports events, but that's okay. I love the idea that it's the ambassadors, and I'm thankful that we decided here to be ambassadors, because that's the reality of Christian education. Is we are image bearers, we're light bearers out in our community, and going and being ambassadors is just that.
I don't want to interrupt you on that, except I may be jumping ahead, but I know I've heard you talk about some statistics of your best, your highest ranking students in Jakarta, and how they were students who were very much involved in the holistic education approach.
Sure. Well, I noticed it here too. Frida, the National Merit Scholar, had 2 kids in their basketball uniforms when they took that picture. So that's the unique part of this is that holistic education is recognizing that your classroom is in the house, is on the sports field, it's in the auditorium, it's everywhere your child is being able to be engaged as a lifelong learner. And so the kids on our campus, and we use the International Baccalaureate program, which I'll talk about, but the top score in that is a 45. And every single year, the kids who score in those top echelons for our program are the same ones that are playing in the band, the same ones that are in the student council, the same ones that are on the sports team. And so there's an element to achievement that goes with being willing to be well-rounded in the areas of your learning.
Okay, we know that Bethesda is a college prep school, and when you were in your time of interview with us, you used a phrase that was caught our attention. Tell us what that phrase was.
Well, first of all, I want to throw this quote out to you, and it's one of my favorite ones from Chariots of Fire, when Eric Liddell says, he was referring back to being a runner, and he says, God made us for a purpose, but when I run, I feel his pleasure. And I thought about that, and I'm thinking about that in terms of Christian education. And the reality for all of us is we have been called, we have been chosen, and we have been gifted and enabled. But each of us have those things that we do, that we're talented in, that when we do it, we feel his pleasure. And I know that the students of Bethesda are the exact same way. And so while preparation for college is fantastic, and we should be preparing kids for what God has intended them to do, albeit maybe some aren't going to go to college. Maybe some are going to jump right into the workplace. We live in a day and age where jobs and job structure are changing, and the preparation of kids for those jobs is changing drastically. As a matter of fact, I think some of the jobs that we were trying to prepare kids for 10 years ago don't even exist today, and there's a lot of them that are brand new. So preparing them for calling preparation, calling prep in line with college prep is so important, because that's what God is calling us to do. We are meant to help gift our children an opportunity to experience what God has for them. And sometimes that might just be for them to be able to grow in their faith deeply. And I love the picture, and they were showing up in the videos of the kids involved in prayer. And, you know, we often don't necessarily put a ribbon or hand a trophy to kids when they do that. But my goodness, if we can continue to help kids to get on their knees and bow before their Creator, God is going to continue to bless them. Because I don't want to dash anyone's hope, but the percentage of kids that are going to be able to go and play professional sports is really, really small. But the percentage of kids that are going to stand in front of their Creator and Maker is 100%. And so we need to be preparing them for that opportunity.
Thank you for that. When you use that phrase, calling prep in alignment with college prep, I went home and told my wife and some friends about that, and it almost said, you know what, it could be that if our focus has been only on college prep, it's short-sighted because it's only preparing them for this much, but preparing them for their calling is a much longer-sighted approach. Tell us something about your leadership style.
Oh boy. The reality for me in leadership has been leadership cannot be done without being willing and able to follow. And leadership and followership are so important to go hand in hand. And Christ gave us that model when he was here on earth, allowing his disciples to step forward and back in those kinds of opportunities. And when he decided to, when the Last Supper, and he decided to share with his disciples that he'd be leaving, he knew that he was going to be passing the church on to them and enabling and equipping them to be his disciples. And so leadership in that sense it's so important to understand situationally what God has you in. And so I don't want to declare, and I've done a lot of theory study on leadership, but I don't want to declare a certain one for myself personally, other than I like to ensure that the situation is examined appropriately to be able to lead appropriately. With that being said as well, in leadership development for myself personally, I have just seen that God has provided the opportunity to mentor in ways that I've never been able to imagine. For example, if some of you are connected with me on Facebook, last night, or I don't even know what day it is actually, to be honest with you. Friday night, I was in Indonesia. I gained how do you take off from Jakarta at 9:30 at night and arrive in Dallas-Fort Worth at 8 o'clock in the morning after 30 hours of traveling? I'm not sure, but I did it. But Friday night was a send-off event for me, and that's because I've been involved so heavily in our sports programs. And they had a huge pep rally and a great send-off, and it was just a wonderful celebration. But the person that was brought in to take my place as the new sport program director, I've had an opportunity to just go alongside of him in a mentorship role. And I guess I say that to say I see it as runners doing a relay. If I have the baton and I'm going to exchange the baton with somebody, I have to get into the exchange zone with them and hand it to them, and we're going to run together for a little bit before I let it go, and then they're going to take it and they're going to be able to run. And so I would say that would probably best capture in a story my leadership style.
Tell us something about your hope for the future and your desire to unite BCS community with our bright future, building on our strong past.
So, first of all, when I received the opportunity profile that was put together by Job Fit Matters and this organization, the first picture that struck me was a picture of Keith with a group of students circled up in prayer in the gymnasium, and I was making all sorts of notes on there, but I wrote in there, a school that prays. And I hope that this place continues to grow in prayer, that we are calling on God for his wisdom and his guidance and discernment and what he has for us to be able to do. And so that's one area of it. The second area of it has been just seeing this long history that God has been blessing this place with, and being able to take the time to really understand that and understand it well, and then being able to forecast what the bright future would look like, and taking the time to get to know people, not just here, but within the community, and leveraging those opportunities to see what God can do. I will say that I love that the final part of BCS's vision statement is preparing students for their God-given potential, and that to me, says two things. One, that students are going to be thinking about those vital values that he wants us all to be developing in, such as love and righteousness, faithfulness, those characteristics of a new man that we find in Colossians 3. But from those should stem some vocational virtues that are marked, so love, for example, marked by wholesome relationships with each other, or truth marked by integrity, honesty, excellence. And so I love that part of the mission statement, and I want to do my best to help us stay on mission with that throughout this time, because I believe that the mission statement is strong, and staying focused on that will be a priority.
Okay, I know there's some things these parents want to hear. Give us some idea, some high performance or success of your current school for which you had a part.
Okay. I shared with you the development pathway that I've been on, and each of those has been something that God has just taken probably the insides of me and pulled them out, and then repaired them and put them back, and then pulled them out again and kept repairing them. And each of the steps, so academics being the first one, of just taking myself personally to a higher level, but then being willing to step into that role as an academic coordinator in our school within the International Baccalaureate program has been a great challenge, but a great opportunity. And if anyone knows about the International Baccalaureate program, it's a world-recognized program. It's something that students who graduate from those can go to universities anywhere they want to in the world. And so it's exciting to be a part of that. And we are what's called a continuum school, which means we run the program from the elementary school level through the middle school into the high school. And we're one of the few schools around the world, actually, that's Christian and does that. And so we're thankful to be able to take what would probably be a very humanistic program and allow God to just transform it to be a purposeful and intentional, rigorous academic program. And that comes with the biblical permeation of our worldview as a school to just come throughout everything that we do, and that's been foundational in the development of that. We've done that by staying on mission and making sure that we have annual themes that kind of engage with that to ensure that we're staying on mission, not just with our own teachers and students, but with families and our community in general. And then we've had this growth and expansion that I shared with you about that's been a track record of development. As a matter of fact, the owners of our school system in Indonesia are wealthy Chinese and Indonesian Christian businessmen and women, and they're just pouring money into education and actually in healthcare, and they want to see God's word be spread through that, which has been neat because I've had the opportunity to see kids graduate and then see them go into the workplace and use those ministries. I'll give you an example. A student that I coached playing basketball and taught in high school, he's now in the media world and is launching satellites up above the Papua New Guinea area. And the reason why they're launching satellites is so that the hospitals and schools in these remote areas of Papua New Guinea can begin to grow. And so we've had a chance to connect with those places and develop them in a way that if we didn't have those satellites and maybe some internet connection, we wouldn't have had the same. And so God has been blessing it in that way. We've also been able to develop in fine arts in the robotics area. As a matter of fact, we've been trying to ensure that each of our programs is looking to fit the needs of our organization. And so we've worked closely with our parent organization. And as parents have come to us, they will form maybe a committee, and then we'll work together to make sure that they fit the needs. So science, technology, and engineering, mathematics was a big push. And we hired an organization called Creative Kids, and actually, we just ran an event that had over 1,000 kids come from Southeast Asia in our gymnasium to do things from paintings to robotics to maker space, and it's just been exciting to see how God's using each of the different areas and our campuses. You asked for, I'll share one more too about just the doctoral research side, because this blends in with what I would say the success stories or achievement of our school. I've been, as I said earlier, writing my dissertation on the Active Schools Initiative, and I had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and spend 2 months in the public school areas there, investigating how that's working in the public school system. I also then had a chance to look through our international schools that we have in Indonesia and use kind of this multicultural blend from both. And we've spent a 2-year process then creating a proposal called our Active Schools Initiative. And there's been 5 parts to it. The first one, we've made a balanced school day, and the idea behind that is that kids, especially the little ones, they need the ability to move and play. And actually, when they move and play, they're learning just as well as when they're in the classroom, sometimes sitting and listening, maybe even better. and so balanced school day was one part of that initiative. A whole school active living program that was asking our teachers to participate in some morning fitness activities, some brain breaks in class to get the kids moving and get some blood flowing up into their brain so it can be functioning well. And then the third one was our HELP program, which was our Home Enhancement Learning Program. And it was just a homework help program, basically. But we were trying to get the emphasis off of the homework piece and onto the learning and the engagement of learning with families. And we were leveling it based on research, and this is Harris Cooper's meta-analysis that goes across 15 years of research, but that kind of the 10-minute benchmark per age level from grade 1, so grade 1 would be 10 minutes, grade 2, grade 3, all the way up, so grade 12, sorry, but 120 minutes for you, is appropriate or age appropriate, and then trying to help teachers structure within that time frame, recognizing obviously that every child learns differently and needs different amounts of time, but more focusing in on the engagement at home, meaning we're trying to get activities that parents can engage with and not feel a sense of, well, I don't know what my kid's doing. Just maybe we need to hire a tutor, or maybe we need to get frustrated and then just send them to their room. And so we're looking to have some home engagements with that. A fun example of that, I just got done doing a family fitness challenge. Where they were all doing a bit of research on their own lifestyle, and we've had some great reflections come out of that as a part of our home learning enhancement program. Our after-school programs were expanded. We included some active living programs, some maker space. I mentioned about the robotics. We've always done drama and music on the fine arts side. And we also had to make an adjustment to our uniforms. Our uniforms, especially at the younger age level, just weren't conducive to kids going out and being active, and we wanted to make sure that they could, especially for the little girls. So we made some changes based on that.
And also, you're on the equator, are you not? So it's hot all the time.
Yeah. By the way, this is supposed to be a cookout, but I think it turned into a freeze-out today. Because it's 80 degrees every day in Indonesia, so we could have a cookout every day.
Okay, you hit a buzzword a while ago when you used the word homework. That's always a question. What is your feeling about appropriate homework load, and how can that be handled and administrated well? Especially in light of your statements about holistic approach.
Okay. We have a microphone here that's going to be parent question and answer, and I feel like if there was a barbecue, maybe my head would be on top of that barbecue when we started to talk about homework. I'll just start by saying this. We were spending time doing the research just so that we could make sure we had robust information for us, and we were gathering information from our parents as well. And the bottom line was, the parents of our schools are paying high tuition, and they want the value that comes with that tuition, and we understand that. And so we want to make sure that kids are being engaged in a way that they're going to not have nothing to do when they get home, and now parents are struggling because there's the temptations of technology and boredom or whatever, that we want to make sure it's robust. But we were tempering that with what is age appropriate, and we were looking at statistics, and the reality for elementary school age kids is the effect on achievement is actually a null effect no matter what level of homework you give as far as time goes. But anytime you go above those benchmarks, it actually starts to decrease. And so what we were trying to say is, let's not go above those benchmarks, because we don't want the achievement levels to decrease. But what we needed to make a bit of an adjustment, especially in the younger years, in the early reader years, in the grade 1s and 2s, that level, kindergarten for us, that 10-minute mark didn't include reading. And we said to families, we would like to make sure that when we're doing reading, it's also a family thing, not just go get your book and head off in the corner and read. And so we were trying to develop it in that way. At the upper levels, there's plenty of research that shows that homework has lots of value, but again, tempered that with the ability to have it being engaging with the lesson and making sure that sometimes it might be where you're flipping your classroom and you're learning something that you might be able to then work towards in the classroom when you get there, or it could be foundational to what has been learned the day of. So we were allowing our teachers to really use their creative wisdom on that, just kind of trying to provide the benchmarks.
Okay, in that benchmark, I heard you actually give some numbers.
Yes.
A time, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade.
Yeah.
You going to give that?
I thought I did.
You did?
Maybe I didn't.
Well, did you say that?
Thumbs up if you heard my time. Oh, see, look at all these. See, they heard it. What, were you?
I
not?
wasn't paying
10
attention.
minutes. 10 minutes per grade level.
Per grade.
Yeah. So
I think your head was turned
it'll
the
take
other
me
way.
too long to go from first to 12th grade for you, but
in light of that, what does it take to maintain excellent academics? Because Bethesda is known for being a school of fine academics. So I know that you, obviously, by the story of your life, you value that highly as well. So as a leader of a school, how do you maintain excellence and keep the academic bar high?
I hope that what I've shared kind of in general has given a picture of that. And I also just want to make a comment that for myself personally, academics has always been at center focused, not just from a personal development side in my own schooling, but in the rigor of the programs that I've been involved in at our schools. And as I said, really it comes down to that balance of holistic education. It's hard for anyone to say, I'm going to go and study extra long, and that's going to help me on my test. Now, there might be some short-term stuff you can pull out of that, but the reality is if you are a lifelong learner engaged in that process, the skills that you're developing, particularly in your younger years, those thinking skills, creative and critical thinking skills, those communication, social skills, those research skills, information literacy, media literacy, those skills that you're developing are transferable and then move you and launch you into being a lifelong learner. It's when we start to try to pigeonhole things, and I think in the U.S. we do this often with sports, actually, where we say, I think we've got the next NFL star here. We're going to make him practice 7 days a week and an 8th day if there was one, and that he'll be the next football star. When in reality, what we should be doing is also developing a transferable set of skills even in the physical side. So that comes with the Active Schools Initiative, is developing well-rounded physical literacy as well. And those things, that's how God created us. He's made us to be in His image, and He is a triune God that's been in relationship since the beginning, and He wants us to be in relationship first and foremost and engaging in those things in that way.
Okay, just a couple more questions. Have you had any role in fundraising in your leadership background?
Sure. Interestingly, with fundraising, as far as it being a specialist role at our school, that wasn't something that was in my resume. However, something was arising during my time in Indonesia, and that was we were void of having any structured sports conference, and so it was difficult to get any opportunities to play sports against other schools. And as a part of my master's program in development, we decided to look to launch the first Indonesian sports conference. In order to do that, we needed to be able to get both a fundraising and friend-raising, I would call it, effort to get 11 different schools around the Jakarta area on board. That took a lot of work in meeting with people and spending the time and building that campaign. We have a robust conference now that's called the Jakarta Athletic and Activities Conference. It doesn't just include sports, but it includes Model United Nations and fine arts activities, robotics activities. And so it's neat because God has just taken that and I think I would qualify it under the friend-raising category, but I think friend-raising and fundraising actually go hand in hand. I've also been partnered with an organization here in the States called Courts for Kids, which a close friend of mine that I played high school basketball with broke away from Fellowship of Christian Athletes to start. And he started it in Indonesia, and we did the pilot project there, and we've done 6 different projects over the course of my time there. And basically we send bring teams from the United States to work with teams of students from Indonesia. We help local village schools to fund a multi-purpose sports facility for those, and so those take a fundraising effort as well. So that's been the main scope of my fundraising. And as I said, I haven't been in a specialist role, but that's been kind of the background.
Okay, when you interviewed a few weeks ago, we offered you the tour, and I said, well, where would you like to start? And I assumed you would say kindergarten classes. But you said, no, I want to see the Child Development Center. And you showed extreme interest, as much interest in the Child Development Center. And we even had the question, well, maybe that should not come under the scope of work of the head of school. We would just put the head of school over BCS. And you literally gave the answer, I would not accept the position otherwise.
That's right.
And so you showed extreme interest in the Child Development Center. So tell us something about your background in early childhood.
Okay. Our organization first of all, we had an early childhood program because our kindergarten was a 3-year program, so we had K1, K2, K3, and then you went into first grade. And so we had already had that in place, but we wanted to go down even further and started to develop that. And I was a part of that development process with this Active Schools initiative because we were trying to help teachers, especially Indonesian teachers that were going to be taking this on, to be able to have an understanding that we're not just talking about a daycare here. We don't want to just babysit your kids. We actually want your kids to come, and we're going to create an educational pathway from when you bring them to us, whether they're 6 months old or a year old, all the way through, and we would like to see them with us until they're in 12th grade and finish school. And so I guess while I was here, that was what I was looking for, to see, is there that connection? And I am actually still hearing some people refer, especially you, to as a daycare, and I'm probably never going to say that word about it. I'll say that it's a child development center because I believe that there's an early childhood program in place that has a pathway that could take us right into Bethesda Christian School, and then be working on that end to make sure, whether it's incentivizing it for parents and how that can all happen, but keeping the ambassadors in place from the earliest of ages all the way through. By the way, when I came and I went through the Child Development Center, I was shocked. It was so quiet.
It was nap time.
It was nap time. I don't know how they got 250 kids all to be quiet at the same time. That's an art in and of itself. But as I was talking with teachers and I was talking with Amy, I just felt this sense that there is just this strong foundation in place with the Child Development Center that has this beautiful soil that can be enriched and grow right into Bethesda Christian School. And so I'd actually like to see that be a pathway of success right through. And I'm sure that as we do, kids that go from kindergarten to grade 12 at BCS get recognized for being there for 13 years. Maybe there could be a recognition for being there for, what would it be, 18 years or 19 years? So that could be another recognition, I guess.
That's terrific. This is, we were going to have one other part of our program, but it's 5:22. We're a little past time. So what's your pleasure? Would you rather eat, or would you like to have a brief Q&A session?
Q&A.
All right.
The kids say food.
Okay. Raise your hands if you're ready. If you want to eat now, raise your hand if you want to eat now. Okay.
Kids' hands go
Raise
up.
your hand if you'd like to have a brief Q&A. Okay. If you do, I'm going to ask, let's put a limit on it at 5:30. It's 5:22. We'll do it for 8 minutes. Please step to one of these microphones and just state your name and then address your question to Dr. J, okay? So come quickly to the microphones if you want to be a part of the Q&A. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Delilah Thomas, and my girls are on the waiting list to hopefully start in June, and the Child Development Center. We came last year, and they weren't even 2 yet, and I wheeled them through here, and they were really excited about what they saw in the classroom, and I was shocked at how much you guys do in the STEM program. I visited other private schools, and I wanted them to start at the same place so that they could grow with the school, and so that they know the faces that they see every day, and that's their investment as they grow and develop into their own purpose in God. And so I was shocked to see how much STEM that was related because I do a lot of that at home, and I was curious today to come to see what the goal was for the school with the new leadership coming through, to see if that was part of the process, and it was interesting because I noticed that you talked about the international baccalaureate program. Not very many schools in this area have that, and for it to be a Christian school bringing in someone with that kind of background, I think that's awesome. So my question is for you, when you made the ending comment about growing from early childhood education to going into Bethesda Christian School, that's my goal. So what would that look like?
Well, first of all, my perspective on this is very short-sighted, so I would need to have some conversations with the powers that be and know better. But my initial thought would be that we would ensure that there's that pathway. How we get there creatively would need to be discussed to make sure that it's feasible for the school, it's feasible for the families, and then also that we have the ability to sustain it over time. I don't think it would be fair to me to try to come up with a specific answer until I have enough background with, like I said, the people that know better. But I definitely would be supporting and a proponent of that development because I believe that that's the pathway forward.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Elvis McNeely. My daughter Stella, she's in 8th grade, and seeing her going into high school soon. I work in software engineering and computer science type of work. I know there's a huge need for programmers and engineers for computer science coming up. The demand is so high that companies are having a hard time fulfilling those needs. The tools that we use, technology, a lot of it's all related to software and programming. And my question for you is, so let me say one other thing. Some companies are even now starting to offer a vocational pathway to train high school kids, starting in high school and giving them one year of training afterwards, and then giving them a job for $60,000 to work. Amazon is one of those companies for AWS, their AWS brand. Saying that, I think it's really important for schools to do that, and you said something about maybe they won't go to college, so I've been thinking about that, and I'm wondering, have you thought about that in the past, of this new need of types of engineers, and how would you approach maybe addressing
That's a great question, by the way. A student that can leave high school and make $60,000. I'd like to just add that question goes back to what I was talking about earlier, those spheres of influence. And as you have connections with the home, the school, and then the community, I believe that those engagements will naturally come about to maybe create pathways. I do believe that our teachers are faced with a significant challenge in the fact that they are preparing kids for potentially jobs that don't actually exist right now. And because of that, we do need to be creative in the way that we're educating in terms of development of the skills that I was sharing with you a bit earlier, but then also perhaps being willing to be flexible in our thinking, because and this goes back to the calling prep over college prep. For some people, the pathway is to college. I would say 98% of our students in Indonesia, they're going to university. Their parents are paying for them and they're going. But that's not the reality of perhaps the next 5 and 10 years of development, and we'll see how that goes and grows. But I would believe that if our community in this area has those types of solid partnerships, and we have a natural pathway for kids to develop in that way, and parents are happy to support that, then it seems to me to be a bit of a no-brainer. Why would we not want to support those opportunities? So I think that falls under those spheres of influence.
Ms. Leidick?
Hi, Jason. I'm Dawn Leidick. I have a 6th grade daughter here at Bethesda. We've been here since kindergarten. I'm a little biased, but I think we have the best teachers and staff in the Metroplex. I want to look at their future. How are we going to attract and retain such talent in the future? How will we develop them so they can do this for our students to take them out into the world? What plan do we have to really support our teachers and staff?
That's a great question. First of all, I'm thankful that Bethesda has such great teachers. I am bursting with excitement to get my kids enrolled in the school, and I can't wait for them to come here and experience that firsthand for themselves. And I'm thankful that we've been in a school in Indonesia that has had great teachers as well, that I've seen our kids blossom and grow in development. But to your question regarding professional development, if you talk to teachers and you tell them, we're going to have a professional development session, often they'll cringe and think I'm going to be sitting in a seat all day long while someone tells me what I should be doing. And while there is a need and a place for professional development for all teachers, and I think that's important, an area of influence that I would like to have on staff development will be personal learning networks. And that's where teachers have an opportunity to decide their pathway a bit and see where that could creatively go. Where we're at right now in Jakarta, we have a university that's right up the road. And we have a pathway there where we can actually connect with that local university to then help our teachers leverage their interest and expertise. So maybe it's in computer technology and development. Maybe it's in curriculum development. Let them pursue some of those personal learning networks in order for them to be developed. And sometimes, at least in there, we have a cash incentive for them as well to come back and provide that to our school. I don't necessarily know if that's an available opportunity here, but it's been a great way to help our teachers to create these pathways that is interesting for them. Mind you, and I have to say this on the outset, we still have to have our professional development days. Those are just a necessary part of doing education. But I think teachers are equipped and enabled when they have our set of counselors, for example. They have a very different look at what professional development needs to be for them, whether it's college and career counseling or whether it's on an academic support side. And so allowing some of those professional learning networks to take place organically, I think, will be an important part of that.
Okay, last question from Seth Boney, and then Josh, are you close by? Okay.
First of all, thank you very much for taking the time to fly this way. I know that's difficult, so I appreciate the effort. I'm a father of 3 kids here. I've got a 6th grader, a 2nd grader, both are boys, and I've got a 6-month-old daughter. My wife also teaches in middle school and high school here. So we're pretty well ingrained, but I'm also a parent of very active boys. And I know sometimes active kids have a hard time sitting in their seat for a long time and focusing on textbook and classwork, and then coming home and they've got an hour or more of homework. I'm curious, have you had any situations where you've had to make some adjustments at your school in Jakarta where you're kind of trying to get these active kids re-engaged and preventing them from being defeated at times?
Sure. I am one of those, and my son is actually one of those. My office in Indonesia, my desk is a standing desk. I have a balance cushion that I stand on while I type on my computer because I can't sit. And my son is actually the same way. His teacher, we have a flexible seating environment where we're at, and that's just the desk can be arranged, and we have height desks that can be arranged as well to help kids to be able to engage in that way. We have exercise balls that can help kids to be able to sit on, or just different ways to provide some flexible seating. Now, unfortunately, and this is just something we've had to do with professional development, teachers aren't necessarily ready to handle that right away because you got some kid bouncing up and down on a ball now all of a sudden in your class and going, whee, but we do need to be able to balance that with being able to actually still learn. And I think making sure that it's fit for the need, and we have a whole learning support division of our school that we work through to create those, and we even go as far as then creating some individual education plans for the kids that need it in a way that is helping them through. And when we first started doing that, we were getting some pushback from teachers because they were worried that I was going to have to do a whole nother lesson for another child, and the reality was the things that were going into these individual education plans were just good teaching practice in general. And so those were some ways that we were trying to help with the development of that. I'm not actually sure what the structure is here, but I know if I have to sit, and by the way, parents, if you wanted to play a day as your child in the classroom and you do notice that there's a lot of sitting going on, that's something to be addressed, I believe. It's a matter that kids we were all created to move, and so that's why we have the active brain breaks and things like that to get the wiggles out, and hopefully the recess breaks can provide that as well.
All right.
Before you close, though, I wrote a letter to everyone while I was on the plane, and I want to share it because I've had a number of people that have asked me some questions regarding how I'm going to lead or what's going to happen, and so it's very short. But I've been talking with Kim and Dan and sharing with the school board that as I get ready to transition here, it's going to be very important that a strong entry plan is in place. And that entry plan will allow me to not only hit the ground running, but hit the ground learning. Because that's going to be a vital part of this for me. So I've just wrote this, and I want to read it to you. I wrote it on the plane just this morning. And I didn't memorize it because my eyes are bloodshot and I haven't slept for 20 hours. So let me just read it. During this entire process, I have communicated with many of you, representatives of the teachers, staff, church, parents, and community, and I want to thank you for welcoming me and my family to Bethesda. Your questions and comments have helped me to begin to learn about the Bethesda community. I've come to realize that there's a great deal of respect here for a proud heritage, an alluring ethos, and a vital culture. To each of these, I am presently an outsider. Many of you are naturally of two minds about it, at one in full hope of anticipation, yet concerned that their significant core values will not be violated. My current status confers a degree of humility as I enter your world very soon with a relatively objective lens in this transitional period. I will make it a first priority to understand the natural tension between change and continuity that many of you are feeling, and I invite each of you to tell me about your individual plans, dreams, expectations, and what you see as the promise for the school's future in improving the performance of children. In addition, I would make sure that I will learn the history of both the Bethesda Child Development Center and Bethesda Christian School and its rules, guidelines, roles, and responsibilities, and norms for behavior. My effort will be to get to know the school through your eyes. Also, as I do, I hope you will come to know and trust me so that together we can proclaim Christ's preeminence in all we do and co-labor as we engage in the redemptive restoration process through holistic education.
Well, I'm really encouraged and optimistic and excited. And if you need permission to be excited again, you got permission. You can still, and I will still appreciate the past and all that are a part of it. But I, with my family, am moving forward, and the Lord is in it and with it, and I am excited. And thank you, Jason. Thank you. You know what? I know you've asked me, and I'll tell you more things I want to see, but honestly, I'm going to tell you everything I want to see and I love. I trust you. I trust you, and I trust that you're being led by the Lord, and you don't have to check off all my boxes. Just go where the Lord's sending you, and I believe you're going to lead my kids well. Thank you, Jason. Now to the two most important things. First of all, can we get a non-squeaky chair for the next time anybody is on for that chair? And the second thing, I want to tell you how to get the food, all right? So here's the deal. First of all, the most important thing is we got some caregivers over there. Some of your kids have been caregiving tonight. They've done a great job. We've pushed a little further. Well, not too bad, but we pushed a little past 5:30. So let's get our kids first, and then let's go to eat. So get your kids first. If you have a preschooler, you pick them up exactly where you dropped them off. So if you took them to a room, that's where you pick them up. If you have an elementary kid, you drop them off in the youth hall, and that's where they will be. So elementary kids in the youth hall, preschool kids in their rooms. They're gonna want to see you. They've had a good time, but they're hungry. So then grab them, and then you're going to head to the cafeteria where there will be 6 lines, and we will get you through really quick. Make sure you high five and smile at whoever's serving you because they are there as a blessing. And a volunteer. So cafeteria first, there's 6 lines of food, and then let's go to the gymnasium where we'll eat and we'll hang out and we'll talk and we'll ask more questions, that sort of thing. If you're new here and you hadn't been around maybe just a couple of years even, I want to tell you something. Everybody's been talking about family and community and how great that is. If you're not quite there where you really just walk in the door and you feel that immediately, I want to give you some good news. The longer you show up at track meets and show up to robotics meets and show up for field trips, and the more people you get to know, and you come into a room like this, and used to, I would know like 3% of the room. Now I'm up to about 50% of the room. It gets more and more and more and more fun. So keep investing in this place that you love, this place, and it's going to just keep paying dividends back to the point where you're going to know everybody in the room, and it's so much fun to just do life and just be in community. So, Pastor Dan, would you pray for the meal and just a final blessing over us, please?
Yes. Can I just ask you one time to thank Dr. Myers for being with us today? Let's stand together, please. Father, it's always so good to be in your presence, and we thank you for the presence of the Holy Spirit that has been in this gathering today. Thank you for sending Dr. Myers to us. Thank you for what we sense in him and his family. We ask that your grace be upon us as we go forward from this place, from this moment. Now we ask you to bless the food. We thank you for your provision to us. We give it to you in Christ's name. And everyone said, amen. All right, God bless you.